So next up, Saint Nicholas, who of course over time became Santa Claus or Saint Claus. Many different versions of the name celebrated throughout the world. And Saint Nicholas is of course a actual historical person. Let me get to the right point on my notes. So Sir Nicholas of Myra was imprisoned, and he was released by Constantine under the reign of Constantine, Emperor Constantine, should I say, when the ban on Christianity was lifted. And that, of course, is when the old pagan practices were co-opted into Christian practice, which I find fascinating. Sadly, there are a lot of pagans who seem to feel that this meant that Christians stole the festival and blah, blah, blah. And of course, you know, there is a very negative history of the interaction between pagans and Christians. But I believe at the time it was a way of bringing peace to the empire and getting everybody to celebrate at the same time. So the festival of St. Nicholas, it is a feast day because it comes after a period of fasting. In the Western Christian tradition, it's the 5th and 6th of December, which actually coincides with Krampus, and we will get on to Krampus next. In the Eastern Orthodox Christian, it's celebrated on the 19th of December. I didn't write down whether it was the 18th, the 19th, or 19th, or 20th, but anywho. St. Nicholas of Myra, going back to him, there was a story about him where he gave money to a father because he was on the verge of having to sell his daughters into slavery. Very poor guy. And he threw the money through the window, and it landed in their boots. And that will become quite key in the story of Krampus. And co-opting that story, there is a legend, one of the superstitions that has led from that actual historical act. I missed a part. In between that, a certain sect of nuns started giving gifts to poor children in his name. So he became an almost Robin Hood-like figure, where he left gifts for children, for the poor children of the neighbourhood. And so traditionally, children would polish their boots on St. Nicholas Eve, on the 5th of December, because St. Nicholas would not leave gifts in muddy boots, because that meant they were lazy children, and only good children were rewarded with gifts. So I thought that's quite interesting. Perhaps that led down to the whole idea of hanging stockings, etc. So naughty children would get coal or twigs, and good children would get a gift under their pillow or in their boots. And those gifts traditionally were sweet treats, the sort of things that poor children wouldn't be able to afford, you know, like chocolate and nuts and dried fruit, etc., which are all things that we still eat at Christmas. So I find it absolutely fascinating where these things come from. Now, the feast day is a day where the traditional or very Orthodox Christians would celebrate by caring for the poor and needy, which again is another Christian tradition, as we all give to charity a bit more. And it also leads up to Childermas, which is celebrated on the 28th of December, which is just sort of giving a nod to the massacre of the Holy Innocents. That's the name of the festival, which is where Herod ordered the killing of male children leading up to Jesus' birth. So I sort of think that Christmas and Yule are a lot closer than we like, or some pagans would like to believe, that many of these traditions that we do now are in fact from Christian roots and not pagan roots. For example, the example set by St. Nicholas to care for the poor and needy, to leave money and sweet treats for children, whereas the pagan tradition would be to leave sweet treats for the spirits. So it would obviously end up going mouldy or being eaten by animals. So I quite like the idea of this co-opting of the practice and traditions, to just make things a little bit more cheerful. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and a lot of the recorded information about these Yule traditions is actually post-Christian, not pre-Christian. So I find that a little bit fascinating as well. So that is St. Nicholas, down throughout time became Santa Claus or Saint Claus, Santa Claus, Nicolaus. Fascinating. I think it is anyway. So again, happy Yule, my lovies. And next up, we'll talk about Krampus.